tell me, what is the definition of a statement? Okay, yes, sir.
A statement is a sentence that is either true or false.
Is a sentence that is either true or false. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, am I going to have a problem if you misspell sentence? Not at all. Okay. Am I going to have a problem if you misspell true by spelling it F-A-L-S-E?
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to have a problem with that. Okay. This is not a spelling class. This is a logic class. But please make sure that your definition is correct. So, any questions on 1 before we go on to 2? Okay, what's the definition of negation? Yes, ma'am.
The definition of negation is a statement that is the opposite of the truth value.
Is or has?
Has the opposite.
Has. The opposite truth value of a given statement. Because if I just say the opposite truth value of what? I need to say the opposite truth value of a given statement. So that's why I need that word for word. Just having the idea is like, oh, it's when you change falses to trues and trues to falses. That's why I don't want just a when or a where. I want the actual is a, has a definition that we came up with in class. Conjunction. What's the definition of conjunction? Yes, sir.
Conjunction is a statement that is
That is only true if two given statements are both true. Does everyone agree with that? Okay, how about truth table? What's a truth table? Is a table that shows all possible truth outcomes. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any questions on the first 4? Any surprises? No surprises? Excellent. So for the truth table, remember the truth table is a table that shows all possible truth outcomes, and P is a statement. The statement is a sentence that is either true or false. And then I've got this little squiggly line. What does the squiggly line mean? Negation. And a negation is a statement that has the opposite truth, the opposite of true.
False.
False. And what's the opposite of false?
True.
True. So that is my truth table for a negation. Any questions on that? Now, if a truth table is a table that shows all possible truth outcomes, and I have 2 statements, well, the first statement is true and false, the second statement is true and false, so what's 2 times 2? 4. So I should have 4 rows. All of my possible truth outcomes, I can either have both statements are true, or only the first statement is true, or only the second statement is true, or both statements are true. Now, I want to pause here. I want to see these in this order, and I'm not going to penalize you on today's quiz if you didn't give them to me in this order. But starting on the next quiz, you need to get in the habit of putting it in this order. Notice I have 4 lines here because 2 times 2 is 4. What's half of 4?
2.
2. So I put 2 trues and 2 falses. What's half of 2?
1.
1. So I put 1 true and 1 false and 1 true and 1 false. That's how I can do it kind of quickly. Now, what does this upside down V mean?
Conjunction.
Conjunction. And a conjunction is a
statement.
Statement.
That's only true if both the given
that
statements
is only
are
true if 2 given statements are both true. Where are they both true? That first row. That's the only place they're both true. So that's the only place that I get to put a true. That means where's everything else? False, false, and false. Any questions on that truth table? All right, so let's take a look at these statements. P is the statement, today is a weekday. And I want to write the truth value for negation P. Well, is today a weekday?
Yes.
Yeah. So today is a weekday. It's not a weekend, right? So that is true. So negation P would have to be false because it has to have the opposite truth value of a given statement. So this first statement is true. Today is a weekday. What about the second statement? The room is dark.
False.
That is false. This is a pretty bright room. And if I'm doing a conjunction is a statement that is only true if
the
two given statements
are true.
are both true. Are they both true?
No.
No. So I don't get to put a true, I have to put a false. Questions? Straightforward? All right. Go ahead and take out your notes. So like we had yesterday, we're going to have 4 definitions for today. On tomorrow's quiz, I'm going to ask you for some definitions. Not just the definitions we're learning today, but also some of the definitions we learned yesterday. I expect you to know negation, I expect you to know conjunction, and I expect you to know the definitions that we're doing today. So we'll have a total of 8 definitions so far. Again, I want them verbatim, which means
Word for word.
word for word. So the first definition we have is a disjunction. So a disjunction is a statement that is only false if two given statements are both false. A disjunction is a statement that is only false if two given statements are both false. You know, this sounds an awful lot like a definition we had yesterday. What does it sound a lot like? Okay, what does it sound a lot like? It sounds an awful lot like conjunction. As a matter of fact, the only thing that's different is what? We've replaced the word true with the word false both times it shows up in the definition. So that means that if I've already memorized conjunction, which is a statement that is only true if two given statements are both true, then I've pretty much already memorized disjunction as well. I just have to change the true to false. Well, that's going to make it rather convenient. Now, yesterday when we talked about conjunction, what did we say the key word was for a conjunction? And. And is the word that we're looking at for a conjunction. For a disjunction, our key word is or. So when I talk about a disjunction, I'm going to be putting two statements together with the word or. So if I had the statement P representing the room is dark, and Q represents the statement Mr. Potter's shirt is yellow. Yes, ma'am. Well, in this case, both of those are false, yes, because today my shirt's not yellow, it's what?
Orange.
Orange, okay? And is the room dark?
No.
We've kind of convinced ourselves the room is not dark. So if I wanted to write P disjunction Q, by the way, the symbol for a disjunction is an upside down.
There's 2 words that we don't know.
Oh, there's 2 words you don't know. My goodness, if there's 2 words you don't know, that means I've got to give y'all definitions, right? I better do that. So what are the 2 words y'all don't know? Antecedent and consequent. Let me give y'all definitions for those. So, an antecedent is a statement that occurs first in a conditional statement. An antecedent is a statement that occurs first in a conditional statement. A consequent is a statement that occurs last in a conditional statement. A consequent is a statement that occurs last in a conditional statement. So that means that order matters here, because we make a distinction between what shows up first and what shows up last. Okay. Have any of y'all ever done science fair before? Okay, so if you've done science fair before, what's the very first thing you're supposed to do in science fair? What's the first thing you're supposed to come up with?
An idea.
An idea, and a hypothesis, right? And then you do your experiment, and then what is the last thing that you come up with?
The conclusion.
The conclusion. So what we're talking about when we talk about our antecedent and consequent, we're talking about our hypothesis and conclusion. As a matter of fact, the word consequent sounds a lot like what word you're familiar with. Consequence, right? In other words, something that results, something that comes from something. And you may not have heard of antecedent, but you may have heard of precedent, something that comes before, something that leads us to make a prediction. So the roots of these words, they come to us from Latin, but we are familiar with parts of these words from the other words that we use. So an antecedent is a statement that comes first in a conditional statement. And a consequent is a statement that comes last in a conditional statement. So the question is, how do we use this in real life? So I'm going to write a... If you clean your room, then you can go to the mall. If you clean your room, then you can go to the mall. Our key words for a conditional are if and then. So when we're talking about conditionals, we're going to be looking at ifs and thens. If you clean your room, then you go to the mall. So I want to talk about this. Let's talk about what a truth table would look like for this. So remember, true, true, false, false for P, true, false for Q. So in this first row, my antecedent is true, my consequent is true. I cleaned my room. I went to the mall. Did my mom lie to me? Or did she tell me the truth? She told me the truth, didn't she? I cleaned my room. My first statement, my antecedent is true. I went to the mall. My second statement, my antecedent is true. Did my mom lie to me? No. Let's take a look at the last row. I didn't clean my room. That last row is false. I didn't go to the mall. Let's see. My mom said, if you clean your room, then you can go to the mall. I didn't clean my room. I didn't go to the mall. Did my mom lie to me?
No.
My mom told me the truth. So that means this last row is going to be true, even though they're both false. Even though they're both false, my mom didn't lie to me. Now let's take a look at the second row. Antecedent is true and the consequent is false. I cleaned my room. I didn't get to go to the mall. Did my mom lie to me?
Yes.
Yeah, my mom lied to me. My mom did not tell the truth. That's why we have a false on this second row, where the antecedent is true and the consequent is false. The trickiest part is that third row that we're looking at. So my question is this: how many of y'all have a little brother or a little sister? Do you ever get to do babysitting duties because you're older than them? You have to clean up after them?
No.
No? Y'all are lucky. I had to clean up after my little brother.
I do.
I do.
Okay.
7.
So here's the thing. It says, if you clean your room, then you can go to the mall. But you know what? An emergency happened. and your mom had to leave for a couple of hours. And you're having to take care of this little 4-year-old terror running around the house. And you know what? You don't get time to clean your room. And your mom comes back and says, thank you for taking care of little Rebecca. I know you didn't have time to clean your room. You can still go to the mall. Now, your mom said if you clean your room, then you can go to the mall. The thing is, your mom didn't say if you don't clean your room, then you can't go to the mall. That's something different, right? So here's the thing. You didn't clean your room, but because of some extenuating circumstance, you go to the mall. Your mom's not lying to you. The only time your mom is lying to you is when you cleaned your room like you were supposed to, and you didn't get to go to the mall like you were supposed to. Yes?
So the only time it's false is if the existing antecedent is true.
That's right. A conditional is a statement that is only false if the antecedent is true and the consequent is false. So if that's the only time it's false, what do I have to put in the other 3 rows? True, true, and true. Now, you may have noticed my symbol for a conditional is going to be a single arrow. Please do not do a double arrow, because that double arrow is actually going to mean something later on in this course, and I don't want you to get the two confused. Just use a single arrow. So the key words are if and then. So I'm going to have if my antecedent, then my consequent. I'm going to use the conditional. So if I told you that P represents the statement, the room is dark, and Q represents the statement, Mr. Potter's shirt is yellow, then how would I write P conditional Q? How would I write it? Well, no, I'm not talking about how do I make a truth table for it. I'm just saying how do I write the sentence? What were the key words for a conditional?
If the room is dark,
So if the room is dark,
then Mr. Potter's shirt is yellow.
if the room is dark, then Mr. Potter's shirt is yellow. Now today we've learned 4 definitions, right? What are the 4 definitions we've learned? Yes, sir.
Which one is the
Disjunction.
disjunction?
Disjunction. A disjunction is a statement that is only
False.
false if 2 given statements are
false.
both false. So there is one other thing that I would like to talk about today. The last thing I want to talk about today are parentheses. Now in math, we use parentheses, we use brackets, we use braces. We call these grouping symbols. And if I have something like 3 plus parentheses 4 minus 5,
But we do the parentheses
First.
first.
we have to do what's in the parentheses first. So I'd have 4 minus 5, which is negative 1. And then I have 3 plus negative 1, which is 2. And sometimes in math, the parentheses are extra. Like if I didn't have the parentheses, I would just go in order from left to right. I would do 3 plus 4, which is 7, and 7 minus 5, which is 2. Sometimes the parentheses are essential. Like if I was to have 3 times parentheses 4 minus 5, that would be a different problem. What's 4 minus 5? Still negative 1. What's 3 times negative 1? Negative 3. But if the parentheses weren't there, order of operations says I would have to do what first?
Left to right.
I have to do left or right. I do multiplication before I do subtraction, right? 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 minus 5 is
7.
7. Yes, sir.
My math teacher in 6th grade, she taught us PEMDAS.
Mm-hmm.
Parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction.
Mm-hmm. That's one way to remember it. A lot of people use PEMDAS. The issue I have with that is that some people think they have to do multiplication before they do division. And you have to do it...
It's just from left to right.
Right. It's just left to right.
Because they think that
Right, and if you learn it that way, then that's great. But some people, they just learn PEMDAS, and they think, oh, I have to do addition before I do subtraction.
Our math teacher told us that it's whatever comes first. If multiplication comes first, you do that then.
Right. So that's an easy way to take care of it. Yeah, you're right. So for us, I could do a P conjunction, a Q disjunction R. I could have a combination of statements, but the parentheses tell me what to do first. What do I have to do first in this? I have to do the disjunction of Q and R. And then I take the result of that and put it together with a conjunction using P. So I want to talk about what these look like from a truth table standpoint. So let's say I take this exact same problem. I've got P conjunction, so I've got P conjunction parentheses Q disjunction R. How many different letters do you see there? 3. So I've got P and Q and R. What's 2 times 2 times 2? It's 8. What's half of 8?
4.
So in this column, I'm going to put 4 trues and 4 falses. What's half of 4?
2.
2. So I'm going to put 2 trues and 2 falses, then 2 trues and 2 falses. And then what's half of 2?
1.
1. So I do 1 true and 1 false, 1 true and 1 false, 1 true and 1 false, 1 true and 1 false. So again, that pattern that we talked about of how to fill out a truth table quickly. Now we said parentheses tell us what we have to do first. What's in parentheses in this expression? Q disjunction R. So I've got to do Q disjunction R. And a disjunction is a statement that is only false if 2 given statements are both false. And I'm looking at Q and R, and I want to know when they're both false. Tell me which rows. The bottom one is one place. Is there another place where they're both false? That 4th row. The thing is, because I have multiple statements, I have to check all the rows. If those are the only places that I get to put true, if those are the only places I get to put false, what do I have to put everywhere else? True, 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 and true. Now, this is my parentheses, and I'm supposed to do P conjunction parentheses. So a conjunction is a statement that is only true if
both the
2 given statements are both true. So I'm comparing this column with P. Where are these both true?
Bottom.
The first 3 rows, right? True, true, true. That's where they're both true. Anywhere else? Well, the problem with the 5th row is that this first one messes it up. And that's going to be the same for 6th and 7th. The problem with row 4 is that this one's the one that messes it up. And of course, row 8, well, everything's false. So if only the first 3 rows are true, what does everything else have to be?
False.
False, 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 and false. What we're going to be expected to do is to come up with truth tables for parentheses statements, parenthetical statements, statements that involve multiple letters. Keep in mind that we're still using the same definitions that we've learned so far. All that the parentheses do is they tell us which 2 columns are we going to look at one particular time. Where are we looking for true, true? Where are we looking for false, false? Where are we looking for the antecedent to be true and the consequent to be false? So, we have a quiz tomorrow, right? Quiz tomorrow will have 12 questions. You will have 15 minutes to do it. I will tell you that 6 of the questions are going to be definitions. I will tell you that you have 2 truth tables to do. I tell you that you will have 2 of the problems where you have to tell me the truth value, like you did on number 7 and 8 on today's quiz. And there's going to be 2 sentences that you're going to have to write. So I'm telling you what's on the quiz. Tonight's homework, what pages do you have to read? Pages 3 through 7 of our textbook. And which problems do you have to do for homework tonight?
5 through 7.
Problems 5 through 7. So, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So tomorrow we just do the next 2 pages.
You'll end up giving me the next 2 pages in your homework packet, correct? Okay. Again, when you turn in your homework packet, please make sure that you put your full name, first name and last name on all the pages. I noticed that some of y'all didn't do that when I was grading them earlier. So just please be prepared with that. Any other questions? All right, if there are no other questions, I'll see y'all at tutoring from 3 to 4. I release you to your PA. Have a wonderful day.